Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace. And here today in Studio One, the worldwide headquarters of the Planetary Gig Society, we have here a very wonderful, amazing singer, friend, and we're going to talk about a lot of good stuff. Adalia Tara.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here. A little bit of introduction for the folks. I knew your mom in high school and just recently kind of connected with your mom and your dad. They're living in Sedona. And your mom is certainly a very hip chick, always was, certainly is still. And,
yes.
And your mother and father really helped a lot in terms of getting Planetary Gig Society off the ground, honestly, from conceptual things to the name. Your mom did the logo, so I'm indebted on that to that about that. But also, I met you, and you were just doing this new CD, this new album, and we definitely want to talk about that. And I just wanted to get a little bit of that intro out there, and just ask. So when do you remember music sort of coming into your life? Can you talk a little bit about when you were growing up? What do you remember about music? Did you take lessons? I'm guessing you enjoyed just singing for the hell of singing quite a bit. And then kind of what was your trajectory of music in your life?
Well, thank you for having me. This is really great experience. Wonderful to be here. So, growing up with music, there's always music playing in our house, and I always remember dancing a lot to music. So, on a regular occasion, we would get up and dance maybe after dinner, or, play some loud music, and all get up and dance as a family after dinner.
Nice.
But the thing that really stuck with me was that the music that we listened to always had a really important message. It was the music from the 60s and 70s, and this really strong influence of peace and inspiration and saying something that mattered and kind of awakening the people and what that whole movement was. And I remember too, my parents talking about this, that in particular, just the powerful message that this music brought, and that this, singers and songwriters of that time really tried to portray. So I remember being affected by those messages really early on. And one of my earliest memories was hearing the song Imagine for the first time.
Wow.
And I was really young, but the memory is so vivid, and I remember getting weepy over hearing Imagine. I was about 4 years old, and I don't know what it was, and obviously I didn't understand all the words at that point, probably, maybe a little bit, but...
Yeah, the true meaning of
there was something that was just coming through. I mean, his heart, John Lennon's heart, maybe, or his mission, or whatever that was, and... all that feeling carried with me. And when I started writing music, I guess I was singing a lot as a kid, and I sang at school and stuff. But
do you remember singing like when you were playing or in the house? Did you just sort of spontaneously sing, or did you had lessons at school, or you sang in a group? Or
I think I liked to sing when I was really young, and I did sing in school. I remember, it's very funny actually, I have a cousin that's similar age to me, and I ended up seeing her. She played Annie, her name was Annie, fun enough. She played Annie in a school play, and we ended up going to town to visit them, and we saw her in this play. And I remember going home, this is probably like every child's every girl's young story, but going home and and learning the sun will come out tomorrow, and the song Maybe, all these, those classic Annie songs. And I remember going in my room and learning them and just singing them over and over again. And
when you were how old about?
I was probably 9 at this point, 9, almost 10. And I learned the songs, and I called everyone into the living room, and I was like, okay, sit down. I'm going to sing you a song.
Nice.
And it was the first time, I think my parents, again, I was, kind of singing around the house casually, I guess. But it was the first time I was actually really singing for someone. And, again, I had them sit down. I was like so nervous. So I was very shy to share anything with them in this way, like just to put myself out there in that way. And I sang the songs, and I remember them both looking at each other and being like, whoa, like you got a voice there. Because I was this little, teeny pint-sized girl back then. And, I had a pretty big voice, a big kind of belty voice. And I think that's when I think of those songs in Annie, it's kind of like that belty, that kind of spirit, that really like exciting kind of music. So
you were kind of hooked by music pretty
young.
young.
And then I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then it was funny because there was a talent show like 3 weeks from then, and my dad bribed me to be in the talent. He always tells the story that my career started with $50 because he bribed me. He said, Tara, you need to sing these songs in the talent show. This was a 5th grade talent show. And I said no. I said, there's no way, I'm way too nervous. And he said, what if I give you $50? And I hate to say this, I'm embarrassed to say this, that I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then, because that was a lot of money for a 10-year-old. And he says to this day, he's like, well, I could have probably just given you $20 and you would have done it anyway. But so I ended up auditioning, or not, maybe not auditioning, but showing up, singing these songs. And then, so I was placed to sing a song opening the show and closing the show. Oh. And then that was the first time really singing in front of a group, maybe about 350 people.
Wow.
And that was kind of the start of everything. And then after that, I got formal voice lessons and started taking some piano lessons, and then really started getting very interested in just, what does it mean to be a singer? But really, as I was starting to get that training and just kind of developing the voice more, really, and again, this was my initial interest around music, it really started morphing into songwriting. And to this day, songwriting is why, like, that's truly the reason why I do music, is the powerful message that music can bring. And I started writing when I was about 13, and I just loved writing. And they were kind of these, some of them were kind of protest songs, or I remember writing a song when I was really young about, take off those rose-colored glasses and like see the world as it is, and, wake up to what's going on in the world, and do your part, and that was one of like the very first songs I wrote. And, and it just grew from there. Yeah.
So you took piano lessons for a while.
I was a horrible I was a horrible student. What am I trying to say? I didn't practice ever. And I always wanted to write my own thing. So that was another thing. I just wanted to do my own thing. Yeah. And I wanted to write my own songs. And
do you play guitar too, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Later on, I picked up the guitar just to accompany myself. And
right.
And then years later, actually somewhat recently, I've returned back to piano to start writing. And actually, off the album, most of those songs off the album were written originally on the piano.
Nice. I want to talk about some of the lyrics and things there. But did you, and some of your songs, maybe later teen years, 20s, were you in many bands? Were you in groups, singing with small groups backing you up? What did you? What was that?
When I was a teenager and in high school, I was in choir, and I also played with a few, of my peers. We would play some song. I oftentimes would play with other guitar players. They would do some lead and I would do rhythm, and I performed some of my songs and some cover songs, and we ended up playing at a few places like coffee shops and things like that. So I definitely played music all throughout high school, and then continued on in my first year at NAU, did university singers and did the whole choir thing there. I kind of liked both. I liked the aspect of group singing and working together with a group, but then also doing my solo thing. So I was doing that as well throughout the whole time, playing music, usually my own original stuff with guitar, and any chance I could get to perform and be a part of different events and little festivals and things like that, I would really try my hand at that. That was really when my hunger for it was growing, and I really enjoyed it, and again enjoyed just being with people and being in that space of music and sharing in that space. And I think that's when I was starting to realize the gravity of what I was doing as well, because again, music on its own has that magical quality of bringing people together from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds. And for that moment that you're all in the room together, and it's like you're really sharing something, and it is a total exchange. It's not just, someone's up there singing or sharing their story, but really, I could feel the presence of everyone in the room with me. And the more open they were to hear and to receive and to be present with me in that moment, the more I could open up and kind of give to them. And we could all just, recognize our humanity, our humanness, together. So I loved that, and that feeling just felt so right to me, even at that age, of just like, oh yeah, this is such an incredible tool, such an incredible vehicle for, speaking about things that matter, and, really developing empathy for one another as just a human race.
Well said. Yeah. So the album, Why Wait? This is your first album.
I did a few other acoustic things, but this is the one that I really, went for it. So
yeah, and this was, you did that last year.
Yes,
last year.
Released it in the end of May 31st, so 2017.
And talk a little bit about, your thought about the album generally, what you wanted to do, because I do want to ask you about some specific songs and some lyrics, but
this album came, it's interesting because being a singer, being a songwriter is not always the easiest route to go just in the world, and there's a lot of starts and stops. And for a while I was working out in LA and kind of traveling back and forth, actually, because I was in Sedona, Arizona at that time, traveling back and forth and working with different producers and writing a lot of original music. I recorded and wrote like 20 songs out there, and then kind of everything fell apart. Everyone had a different idea. Everyone had different projects they were working on. It just didn't really come together, and it was actually a really disappointing time because I had so much hope in that, or like, oh, this will be the thing that really breaks through, or oh, I'm so excited to share these songs with people. And still those songs haven't been released, or nothing's been put out. So this album, the Why Wait album, was kind of after this time where I felt like I had learned a lot of lessons. There was some kind of deeper maturity that was happening with me as a writer. And I ended up just getting very empowered to just do everything on my own. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this album. I'm going to write these songs. I'm going to play them out a lot. I want to refine them. I want to just fully create that full vision of what this album is. And I started playing these songs a lot, again, gigging in kind of the Sedona, Arizona area and around, and also again, diving into the piano again after a really long time, ended up buying a keyboard and playing these songs out a lot. And it was just a body of work that I was really, happy to share and proud of. And I really wanted to do it justice in terms of the production aspect of it and not skimp out on that either, but just everything I envisioned in my mind, really going for it. And so I actually ended up, I knew I needed help, and that's why I did a Kickstarter campaign. And you are one of the generous donors of my Kickstarter campaign too, which I'm so grateful for. And just the amount of people that showed up and just were there for me and said, okay, we believe in you. Like, let's help this, let's help your voice get out there. And it was just totally incredible. So it was like this beautiful labor of love. And I felt like I had everyone with me, just everyone who had at some point maybe been touched by my music or had known me for a long time, and that I was still, working at this dream of being a songwriter and sharing these songs. And they all, everyone showed up for me in such an incredible way. And I was able to create this album, and everything that I had imagined it would be, it was. And it was such a magical and delightful and exciting process. And and that's how that album came into the world. I couldn't have done it without the support of everyone else. And it's kind of like everyone was just waiting there to help. It was so beautiful, and it felt actually effortless. It was,
it just came out of it.
Yeah, I was so deeply grateful for
that. We're in some ways, and we talk about this on the podcast. The music, it's kind of all there. We are vibrations. We are kind of a music, and it's. I've talked with a few people recently. They say, "Man, the greatest thing is when you're out of your thinking brain. You're not even. It's just the music is just coming through you.
Yeah,
and it's a really fabulous thing, and I can attest. I love the album. I love the songs. I find myself tearing up all the time at them. So, and we also discussed the fact I haven't really had a lot of music played in the podcast because we're interested in the conversation. But if people want to find this, it's Adalia.
Yeah, there's adaliatara.com.
Right.
And it's all Adalia Tara. It's all on, it's on iTunes and Spotify and all those fun music platforms.
So I would encourage people to check that out. And so what I did is I looked at the very nicely, put the lyrics in with the CD, like in the old days of album covers with the words on. And so just a couple ones I wanted to ask about and get your take, your further comment. The first song is Let Love, and it says, too many times I was unkind to myself, which turned toward everyone else. All I do ripples out to you. The choice is mine. I choose to be kind to myself and to everyone else. That's very special and loving, and it's a very moving song.
Thank you.
What were your thoughts about that? Let it ripple out.
That song was just recognizing in my life and seeing this in the world of our inner world so greatly affects our outer world. And I believe that, that they're kind of the same thing in that way. It's like if, I had seen in my life where I had a lot of, self-doubt or self-criticism or, not a lot of love for myself, just being my own worst critic. And noticing how whatever my inner world was with that, how then that's kind of how I saw the world coming at me or how I was then interacting with the world. It's like, if I can't be kind to myself, then it's like how I'm viewing others, or I might have that same critical mind towards others or whatever that is. And it's really coming back to my inner world is not, I'm not including myself in that kindness, and then it's just kind of this, it's rippling out from that place. And
you could kind of make a choice.
Yeah.
as to how you want it to go out.
Right. And
What
it's
you want
like,
it to go
okay,
out.
well, like, why are we always denying ourselves that self-love and then denying that love to others? And it's like, and I always, that great quote, it's like peace starts within, or peace starts with you. I don't even know if I'm saying it exactly correctly, but that idea of like, it starts at home.
Yeah.
And that's, if you really want to be of benefit, if you really want to help people in this world, if you really promote this idea of peace, then it has to start in your own backyard, so to speak. And so that's, especially in how crazy the world is right now, that song is really like, hey, like, take some responsibility and like see how we're affecting everyone constantly. It's like, anything I say to you now, we're in the same room together. It's like it will affect you, and then that might affect your day in another way and another way. So it's what little seeds are we planting all the time, and making sure that they come from a place of, good intention, kind intention, because those seeds will ripen, and that's how wars start. It's like it's just being more conscious and mindful human beings and how we treat each other.
Yeah, it's really hard to bring peace to the world if you don't really understand peace and love yourself.
Yeah.
Or if peace and love is very much a situation where you hate somebody else and you degrade somebody else,
right,
or discriminate and all that, but you still say you love somebody.
Right.
You're kind of not quite getting
it.
Yeah. So then you had a couple of songs that I was struck anyway because of the but just because of the reference to water. But the river, the river never waits. It keeps washing away. The river always flows, because changes all it knows. And then also underground, take me where the rain goes. I want to find your deepest well. I love that line, take me where the rain goes, too. What is your thinking about water, or those songs, or anything you want to comment about in that way?
Well, for the song River, again, it was kind of a time where so many things for me were changing, and I feel like in my, circle of friends and community, a lot of things were just in rapid, transition. And then just kind of thinking into the idea, well, really that's the only true thing that we know. We know that things are always changing. That's the only constant, is that they're changing. And so instead, the idea of this, like the water, the cleansing quality of water, it's like, let this, kind of like letting the water wash over you, letting yourself go with the current rather than resisting it. And it's, if you're in the middle of the water, if you're resisting the current, that actually can be very dangerous. You might even lose your life. But if you actually let the current take you, then water will just do what water does, and it will change, and you'll flow with it. And so there's also a line on there. It's, we think sometimes our life, the safety of our life on the shore, so to speak, that's our life and in our comfort zone and the things we know. But really, there's this risk and beauty when you're in that ever-changing flow, and that you just let yourself go in that space and be in that space and not resist that space, because that is life. And so that was kind of picking up on that feeling that I've experienced, and also kind of realizing that's something that we all feel all the time. And
there's a Richard Bach book called Illusions, Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. And in the very beginning of the book, there's a handwritten part. It's not typed out, but it's handwritten. It's a story about little creatures who lived at the bottom of a creek, bottom of the sort of creek bed, riverish thing. And they're all clinging to the rocks. And one time this one guy says, I'm tired of clinging. And he lets go, and he tumbles in the rocks, and then he goes up into the water, and he's sort of just floating in the, and everybody down below looks up and says, oh my God, it's a God. It's a supernatural being. Look at that. He just is rolling in the water. So I think it's a very powerful analogy story type thing, what you're talking about.
Yeah. And the other song too, sorry to touch on that one as well, for Underground, the theme of water there was, that song is all about kind of, take me underground where everything just still naturally exists as it is. And it was a metaphor for me. That song is, it's talking about how all this, these city streets and this infrastructure and these buildings and everything are kind of, built on this raw earth, built on top of this raw earth, and how we're kind of, existing up on the surface level of all these, of life, or our jobs and our, the craziness, the grind of life, and remembering what all of that is built upon, and that there's this raw earth, this like wild heart beat in everything that, is kind of sometimes covered in our life, or not seen or forgotten. There's just layers of our own muck of life that surround, that covers that, and how we can forget who we are at the very core, and forget our, wild, nature, our just our true being. And so that song, it kind of, again, describes a city scene, and it's like, this is not my home. This is not where I truly live. And, it's kind of like, return me to that place where I have, true freedom, and, where truth really exists for me. And so that one's kind of, the water is basically talking about, where does the water of the city or the town actually go? It just goes back to like the center. It seeps through the ground. Where do all these things wash away? Where do they return to in nature? So that's...
Well, there's so many beautiful lyrics in here, really. And I could ask about a few of them, but let me ask about Infinite. The song, the part I sort of highlighted here is, but I will not be swallowed, consumed by the night. Nothing can shake me if I'm only light. We were born infinite. And then I love this, the chorus, I guess. We don't know what the future brings, so we'll just sing. We'll just sing. And to me, that sounds like a great plan. But what were your thoughts about that song?
So that song was all about, confronting these self-imposing limitations that we put on ourselves, and kind of recognizing, if we stay in that life of just limiting ourselves or whatever that is, that it slowly will swallow and like just suck all the life out of us. And that was kind of what that was. It's like, I won't be swallowed by the night. Like I'm again recognizing this, that I'm infinite, that anything is possible, that's where, where I can truly be and exist. And that song too, I really kind of wrote for whoever, would hear that song. It's like reminding them, like, you're infinite too. Like you can do anything. Like we were born infinite. And, that part, it's so funny because I wrote that song, and I remember the very first time performing that song was kind of a risk for me, because I had, it was just a different style than I had done on the rest of the album. And I decided to play it one night, and it was very new. And I had one little kind of instrumental interlude part. And I actually hadn't even come up. The song was so new, but I had some friends in the room, and they're like, "Come on, play that song you played us the other day." And I hadn't even written the part on this instrumental, section. And in the moment, I was in the room with everyone, just trying to be as present as I possibly could, and just looking into everyone's eyes. And that lyric just came out of my mouth, we don't know what the future brings, or I don't know what the future brings, so let's just sing. And I actually got the whole room to sing it with me, which was so cool because the song, again, it was like, we don't know, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen the next day, but like, let's just sing. Let's be with each other. Let's do what we can in this moment, in this powerful moment. And it was such a cool thing to have everyone doing that together. And I ended up just keeping the lyric, and I kept it in the song, and that was, it was really cool just to create something in the moment like that, totally spontaneous. So,
well, that was, I think, in some ways, that's my favorite line. Those are my favorite lines in the album, because it just resonates so much with what I'm thinking about, what we're sort of doing, planetary gigs, the conversation.
Yeah.
We don't know, but let's do music. Let's sing. Let's take that route to get to as a way to help lead us to where we want to go.
Yeah. Totally.
So it's really it's a very powerful CD. You have a fabulous voice, and I just really am very thankful for the opportunity to be able to talk with you about all this, and hopefully more people will listen and check out the CD.
Thank you so much.
And you're in the area, so hopefully we won't be strangers, and we'll look forward to when we can go see you sing soon.
Oh yeah, I'll keep you posted. Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
All right, Adalia Tara, thank you very much. You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.